So number one, verse 1 says the Proverbs of Solomon. I love saying this because verses that seem simple on the surface, but by the time we dive deeper, you understand that, man, there's a whole lot in this. So for example, when it says the Proverbs of Solomon, why does it say the Proverbs of Solomon, not the Proverbs of Nebuchadnezzar or the Proverbs of Judas? It's saying the Proverbs of Solomon because it is trying to qualify the source of the Proverbs. Because the truth is, not every proverb is true. There are wise sayings that we grew up hearing and believing that were not true. We did not interrogate the source to figure out, where did this proverb come from? Is it true? For example, there's a proverb that says, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Somebody came up with that based on an interaction that they had. Now, it may be true that the words used at that time of the interaction did not penetrate the person who formulated this proverb, but it doesn't mean that words cannot hurt you. And so people have embraced that to believe that, oh, words can't hurt me, when the Bible tells us that words can kill. So the proverb can be true for that person, but it is not always true for every person, which is why we have to interrogate the source of the proverb that we are embracing. So when chapter 1 or when verse 1 of chapter 10 starts with the Proverbs of Solomon, it is qualifying the source of these wise sayings, that these proverbs that you're about to read, they are premium. They've come directly from the source. These are premium words. These are premium sayings. Don't take them lightly. They're coming from King Solomon, who was known to be the wisest king to have ever lived. Let me show you why this is important. This is where the Bible gets interesting, guys. Because when you go to 2 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 22 to 24, just to give you an idea, it says King Solomon was greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. All the kings of the earth sought audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom God had put in his heart. Meaning that, and it says that, verse 24, year after year, everyone who came brought a gift. Articles of silver and gold and robes, weapons and spices and horses and mules. So just to hear the wisdom of Solomon. Kings left their kingdoms to hear him speak. I don't think we get the gravity of that situation, because you don't realize that back then, kings had wise men that they would consult with. Think of Pharaoh. Pharaoh had a lot of magi. During the days of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar had a lot of magi, people that had wisdom to guide and to advise the king. These kings left their wise men when they heard of Solomon's wisdom and said, we want to go and hear it ourselves. And when they came, they brought gifts, expensive gifts, just to hear Solomon. Meaning that what we have received for free today was once very expensive to access. We have the book of Proverbs in our Bible, and most people will never read it. In the time Solomon was alive, kings left their territory with gifts to go and hear Solomon speak. Now we have Solomon's words for free, and yet people will not read it. We're not even willing to pay for it. This is how valuable Solomon's words were. In fact, in 1 Kings chapter 10, it says, when the queen of Sheba heard about the fame of Solomon and his relationship to the Lord, that she came to test Solomon with hard questions. Think about that. It means that as a queen, you can imagine as a queen, there were some questions that she had been searching for, that she's like, nobody knows the answer to this thing. She had inquired from everybody. Nobody knew. And when she heard of this Solomon, she's like, nah, I'm gonna see. The way I'm gonna test to see if this guy is actually what he says he is, if his reputation precedes him, I'm gonna test him with these hard questions I have not been able to answer. And so arriving at Jerusalem with a great caravan with camels carrying spices, large quantities of gold and precious stones, she came to Solomon and talked with him about all that she had on her mind. And Solomon answered all her questions. Nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. Can you imagine what it would have taken for the queen of Sheba to come? She has prepared the hard questions. She's expecting that when Solomon hears these questions, he will pause. He will say, you know what, let me get back to you tomorrow. Like this is a very, very tough question. But as soon as she asked the question, Solomon gave her the answer like this is simple. Why is it taking you this long to understand this thing? It says nothing was too hard for the king to explain to her. And when the queen of Sheba saw all the wisdom of Solomon and the palace he had built, the food on his table, the sitting of his officials, the attending servants in their robes, his cupbearers, and the burnt offerings he made at the temple of the Lord, she was overwhelmed. She said to the king, the report I heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true, but I did not believe these things until I came and saw with my own eyes. Indeed, not even half was told to me. In wisdom and wealth, you have far exceeded the report I heard. She had an expectation when she met him physically. What she saw exceeded her expectation. The reason why I'm sharing this is for us to know that the source of these proverbs is credible and can be trusted. When it says the Proverbs of Solomon, it's not telling you these are the Proverbs of a common man, the Proverbs of some random person. These Proverbs are credible. You can trust them. So it then goes on to say, a wise son makes glad a father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. Again, first question we need to ask is, what would have made Solomon come to this conclusion? What did he observe? Because these proverbs were a product of observation. He had noticed some things, and based on what he experienced, he came to a conclusion. So when he says a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother, what could Solomon have experienced for him to come to this conclusion? So let's analyze it. It says a wise son. Who is a wise son? Now I'm just taking you through my process of meditation, because we're not just going to read, we're going to ask questions. You see, the book of James says that if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask. It means that asking is the key to receiving wisdom. So when you are meditating, you need to be asking a lot of questions. It says a wise son makes a glad father. Who is a wise son? And why does a wise son make the father glad? So who is a wise son? A wise son is someone who makes good decisions. It's someone who is skillful. They have a competency. A wise son is someone who is adding value to their society, to their environment. A wise son is an asset. A wise son is someone who can be trusted. So Solomon must have observed that for the young men who were exhibiting these traits, when he would see their fathers had this proud look. They had this feeling of gladness. Their emotional state was so evident that he's like, that dad is a proud dad. It was obvious. The next question I had was, why were the fathers glad? This is how we unlock the scripture, guys. You have to understand that in that time, when Solomon was writing this, men worked while women stayed home to nurture the home and to raise the kids. And so as a man who has dedicated his life to working, to building a name and a reputation, when he would see a son who had grown up to become a valuable member of society, it communicated to the father that, my family name is not going to be discredited when I leave. Because family name, reputation was currency. It is still currency today. And so when a father would see that, my son has grown up to keep the law, to become valuable, to become an asset, it communicated to him that the reputation of the family would be preserved, that the inheritance that he would leave for the child would be well stewarded, and it will not be squandered. Think about that. Plus, the wisdom of his son would have been seen as a reflection of his leadership and training. Like, you know how when you see someone who has done well and you see their parents, are like, man, good job. The father may have been absent, but the father gets the reward. Like, good job, you must have done something right with this kid. And we see it today. It's interesting how we see it today. Like, I remember growing up, and when someone would do something right, you'd be like, you're your father's child. But when the child would do something wrong, they will say, you're your mother's child. Your mother has spoiled you. Your mother is the reason why this has happened. And Solomon is saying that it is not just new. It's not something that we're experiencing right now. Solomon experienced it back then. That when a son is wise, the father takes the credit. When the son is foolish, the mother takes the grief. And so we've analyzed the first line. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish son is the grief of his mother. Why is Solomon saying that? Why is Solomon specifying that the grief of the mother here, as the mother that is experiencing the grief? Why not father and mother? But who is a foolish son? So a foolish son is the direct opposite of who a wise son is, right? A foolish son is someone who makes bad decisions, is not competent at anything, or is competent at things that are not going to add value, unskilled, not contributing much value to society. He's a liability. He's a son that will tarnish the reputation and the name of the family. And so Solomon noticed that, okay, when he sees wise children, he sees their father looking proud. But when he sees foolish children, the impact of their foolishness is more visible on the mothers than on the fathers. I don't think he's saying that the fathers will not feel grief, but he's saying the mothers will feel it more. Why? And when I was studying this, and again, when you ask these questions, pause and imagine. Let the Holy Spirit reveal things to you. Why? And as I was thinking about this, I just imagined a mother who has spent 9 months carrying a child, has experienced the pain of birthing that child. There's a deep emotional connection that mothers have with their children that fathers cannot understand. Especially in this time and day where mothers were expected to stay home to nurture the family and to raise the children. The mother had more interactions with the child. She spent more time with this child. She got to hear this child speak, share his ideas, share his visions. This is who I want to be. And she probably can connect and empathize with the child because she probably was there when he made his first foolish mistake. And even in seeing that, she's hopeful that this guy will change. But over time, she's not seeing changes. And so when this child becomes a failure, it's not just the child's failure. The mother also gets to feel the failure of the child. It feels like she has failed. It hurts her more than the father. And when I was thinking about this, I think it also plays into the fact that men and women are different. Men are able to compartmentalize things, their lives. Women don't compartmentalize. It is why if you upset a woman in one area, it affects every area of her life. A man can be fighting with you right now and is going to close $100 million deal tomorrow. He's able to shut that part out of his life. I upset you. I'll deal with that later. Right now, I'm focusing on this deal. And is able to compartmentalize his mind to the point where he can shut that off and still be functional. Women are not like that. And so is it possible? And I've experienced this real time, because a father can be like, man, I've done my best with this child. He has to figure it out himself. Like, I'm done. The mother can't do that. So Solomon had observed that a wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son, it affects parents differently. And so, like I said earlier, the purpose of reading the Bible is not just to come up with revelations, but it's also to unlock the application of the revelation. How does this verse apply to our lives today? What is this verse trying to teach us? Why did Solomon share this? What's the teaching moment here? And when you're studying the Bible, this is the question you always need to be asking. Okay, I get that, but how does this apply to me right now? What can I use this for? I believe one of the teaching moments here is for us to understand that our decisions don't just impact us alone. They impact those who are closest to us. The mother you claim to love is going to be negatively impacted by your bad decisions. Those closest to you are most impacted when you make foolish decisions. Think about it. When you make it, everybody wants to be around you. Everybody wants to feel like they had a hand in your success. But when you make foolish decisions, teaching the wisdom in this is to know that every decision we make doesn't just impact us. It impacts those closest to us. I think it was John Maxwell that said success for him is when those who are closest to him are the ones who love and respect him the most. And I believe there's a principle here that will help someone who is trying to attain a goal, but you keep procrastinating. There was something I did. This was 2 years ago, because there's a quote that says, when you have a strong enough why, you can withstand any what. The reason why a lot of people give up early is because their why wasn't strong enough. Why are you doing this thing? Why do you have this goal? And one of the ways I did this exercise from a book that I read. One of the ways that I was able to strengthen my why was that I had to ask the question that how would those closest to me benefit if this goal were achieved? And secondly, how would those closest to me be negatively impacted if this goal were not achieved? If you have a goal, ask yourself that question. It's going to open up, how would those closest to me benefit if this goal were achieved? The moment you begin to think of, if I achieve this goal, what will my wife's life look like? What will my children's life look like? What will my family's life look like? Your why gets stronger. On the opposite end, you say, you know what, if I make the wrong decision here, how will it affect those closest to me? You will see how your decision making will become sharper. Your decision making will become weightier, because now you are considering others beyond yourself. If I cheat on my spouse and I get caught, how is it going to affect those closest to me? One of the things that in fact, thank God I thought like the Holy Spirit dropped this before I got married. One of the things I never wanted to be able to do in marriage was to pay what I call trust tax. You know what trust tax is? You know, when right now I can leave my phone. My wife can call me and I'll be like I'm somewhere, and she doesn't question where I am. I am where I am. She can see my phone. She's not worried about anything. She's not thinking somebody's texting. The moment you cheat, you are going to pay trust tax for the rest of your life. Now, when your wife calls you and you're like, you are here, it's not just, oh, you are here. Now they're asking, are you sure? Can you prove? I said, I never want to be in that kind of situation where I have to now start proving. Like, when I say something, you can't just take it. You now question everything. Because once you've done trust busting, once you've crossed that line, now your wife cannot just see your phone and be like, oh, there's nothing there. Now it's like, let me see if there's something. There might be something. This thing happened 10 years ago, but the fact that it happened, it can happen again. I said, God, please, I never want to be in that situation. And so when I think about that, I'm like, please, how is it going to affect those closest to you? It could lead to a divorce. Your children could end up leaving you. You don't get to spend time with them anymore. Your decisions, the why for why you do what you do, become stronger. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this clip and you'd like to watch the entire Bible study session, make sure you click this link here. And if you've been blessed by this channel in any way you feel led to support, please consider clicking the link below. And for any amount you give, you get a free Bible study masterclass where I teach you how to unlock the 3 dimensions of the word. Literally, I'm going to be teaching you how to study the Bible in 3D. If you also feel led to support us on a monthly basis, consider becoming a member of the YouTube channel where you get some exclusive perks as well, like becoming a part of our monthly book club. Thanks again for watching, and God bless you. See you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.